In the 1990s, Shenzhen's social security was very chaotic, and criminal cases were numerous. However, these many cases are far inferior to the Six Witches case. 1. The missing driver. In the 1990s, Shenzhen's social security was very chaotic and criminal cases were numerous. However, these many cases are far inferior to the Six Witches case. On the morning of July 6, 1993, a taxi company in Dongguan City reported the incident. During the shift time on the afternoon of the 5th, Zhang, a Crown 130 taxi driver from the company, did not return to the company. I called his home to inquire and learned that Zhang did not come home one night. The driver Zhang is an honest and steady person. In the 14 years of marriage, he has never stayed out at night, let alone not contacting the company or his family. After the police received the call, they investigated and visited for several days but found nothing. The driver Zhang and his Crown 130 taxi seemed to have evaporated. In desperation, the Dongguan police issued a joint investigation announcement to the provincial public security bureaus. About 10 days later, in Shanghai Village, a relatively remote village in Baoan district, Shenzhen, a fruit farmer called the police in panic. A male body was found in my lychee garden. Li Zheng, the criminal police captain of the Baoan District Public Security Bureau, personally led the team to the scene. Deep in the lychee garden, a male corpse was curled up in a ball and tightly tied with nylon ropes and iron wires. His mouth and nose were sealed with tape, and there was a rope around his neck. The weather was very hot, the body was highly decomposed and emitted a foul odor. Thinking of the missing taxi case that Dongguan City requested assistance in investigating, the police immediately asked the family to identify the body. Through the photos of the scene, Zhang's wife recognized her husband's clothes at a glance and fainted on the spot. On-site analysis showed that the Captain Li Zheng believed that the gangsters were seeking money and killing, and the purpose of killing was to rob the brand-new Crown taxi. Moreover, according to the gangsters' modus operandi, they are definitely habitual offenders. The gangsters were very experienced in killing, binding, gagging, and dumping the bodies without leaving any clues. The murder weapon, rope, and other crime tools are items that can be purchased everywhere in Guangdong province and cannot be traced. Lychee Garden was not the first murder scene, it was just the scene where the body was dumped. The police visited people nearby and no one saw any cars parked nearby. Of course, the gangster left some footprints and there were faint fingerprints on the tape, but relying solely on these things, it is impossible to solve the case. Then the only way left is to track the stolen car. The police searched Shenzhen's used car markets but found nothing. It seems that the gangsters have channels to sell stolen goods. The stolen cars have been moved to other cities and even other provinces, and the only clue has been lost. It should be noted that this is not the first case of taxi killing in Baoan district. In the first 3 months, 2 taxi drivers were killed and their vehicles were stolen. The first taxi driver was killed in March. He was brutally killed in a pond and the Laurel sedan he was driving disappeared. An autopsy later found that the driver had more than 40 blow injuries to his head and several stab wounds to his back, which pierced his lungs. The gangster was extremely brutal, but he was obviously not skilled in committing crimes. It seemed that it might be his first time committing a crime. The second driver was strangled, and there was no blood. The Bluebird sedan he was driving was missing. This shows that the gangsters' methods of committing crimes are more sophisticated. In the third case, a couple blocked a car, which was even more clever. There were too few clues in the above 3 cases, and the victims and the criminals were strangers to each other, making them all unsolved cases. What the police never expected was that these 3 cases were just the beginning, and 18 more similar cases occurred in just 1 year. On August 18, 1993, the Finance Bureau of the Longgang District Government in Shenzhen called the police, saying that Wu, the driver of their small convoy, had suddenly disappeared mysteriously. At 7 p.m. on the 17th, the driver Wu drove the director to Shenzhen Airport to board the plane, and then drove back alone. Before boarding the plane, the director asked Wu to pick up the director's wife, who was attending the meeting. The strange thing is that after the meeting ended at 10 o'clock, the director's wife waited until 12 o'clock, but Wu never came to pick her up. Wu did not come to work the next day. The family went to the bureau to find someone, saying that Wu did not return one night and that the black Audi car was also missing. The Bureau felt something was wrong and immediately called the police. The police believe that Wu may have encountered that group of gangsters, which may lead to disaster. Sure enough, a week later, a body was found in a sewage well on the side of Lingwushan Road in Section B10 of the Guangzhou-Shenzhen Expressway. According to identification by family members, this person is the missing Wu. 1. Unresolved. A month later, another similar case occurred, but this time the victim was no longer the driver. Chen, the deputy general manager of a large company in Baoan district, drove back to Shenzhen from his hometown in Jiangxi. After arriving home, Chen saw that the car was too dirty and decided to give it a wash since he was meeting a client tomorrow. After dinner, Chen drove his brand new Lexus to a car wash not far from the airport and disappeared. Seeing that her husband had not come back very late, Mrs. Chen hurriedly called the pager and mobile phone, but there was no answer. Mrs. Chen rushed to the car wash, and the people there told her, "Your husband only spent 20 minutes washing the car and left long ago." Mrs. Chen was extremely anxious. She called the police and mobilized relatives and friends to search everywhere, but still found nothing. 5 days later, at the fruit pit in Xi'an town, a farmer discovered a maggot-covered male corpse in the grass. It was Deputy General Manager Chen. Until June 1994, more than 10 similar cases occurred. The locations are all in Baoan district, Shenzhen, and almost all are related to the airport or the highway near the airport. The police successively discovered the bodies of many missing persons, almost all of them strangled to death, and there were still 7 people who were not alive but not dead. Except for one of the missing vehicles, which is a van, the others are mostly high-end cars, such as a Mercedes-Benz 560 sedan from a large company, worth $109,695. What puzzles the police is that there are huge differences in the identities of the victims. They include Wu, a full-time driver for the government department with a mediocre income. There are also bosses like Deputy General Manager Chen, who is quite wealthy. There's a handsome, bearded guy who just returned to Shenzhen from Hong Kong for vacation. And there is even the Deputy Director of Fengshan County Public Security Bureau. My son come to Shenzhen to start a business. The gangsters used the same method of committing crimes. They deceived these men into remote places and then killed them. It is easy to understand that the gangsters who killed taxi driver Zhang and 3 other people before were probably pretending to pay for a taxi. The remaining dozen or so people are not operating vehicles, and there are quite a few wealthy and well-established people. It is impossible for them to attract customers privately. The case of the 6 witches, Part 2. So what methods do criminals use to deceive all kinds of victims? You know, some of these victims have rich social experience, such as Deputy General Manager Chen. Normally, these people are extremely difficult to be deceived. The police were completely confused, and naturally they could not find a direction to solve the case. Although drivers and their vehicles disappear every month, the police are unable to do anything. For more than a year, the case remained unsolved. 1. Dangerous temptation. It is said that there is no airtight wall in the world. News of a large number of missing drivers on the airport highway has flooded the public. There are also Hong Kong people missing, and the case also made headlines in Hong Kong newspapers. Drivers traveling on the airport highway spontaneously became vigilant. In more than a month, 2 drivers called the police. They said that near the airport, a young girl dressed in a coquettish and sexy manner hitchhiked. After letting her get in the car, the girl claimed to be a lady, teased them in every possible way, and asked them to go to her massage parlor to receive sexual services. Both drivers had heard about missing driver cases and flatly refused. After the girl saw that the temptation was ineffective, she suddenly became flustered and asked to get off the car. Both drivers noticed that the girl took a taxi and left immediately after getting off the car. Why take a ride when you can afford a taxi? They felt it was very suspicious and called the police. At this point, the police suddenly realized the gangster may have used the girl to seduce the driver. A woman's body is the most primitive weapon. Faced with this weapon, no matter whether they are taxi drivers, handsome Hong Kong guys, or general managers of large companies, they cannot resist the temptation because they are all lustful men. Just when the police finally understood the gangsters' methods of committing crimes and began urgent investigation, another major breakthrough was made in the case. On June 6th, Shenzhen District Hospital called the police and the masses sent a seriously injured person. The injured man's vehicle was parked on the roadside and he was unconscious. Seeing that they couldn't wake him up, the crowd immediately called the police. The injured suffered serious head and neck injuries, but fortunately they were not fatal. The police rushed to the hospital immediately. The victim told police that he was a businessman, and at the airport he met a sexy young girl for a ride. The girl said she was an erotic massage girl and asked him to go to the massage parlor to receive erotic services. The driver became lustful and followed her to a rental house. After entering the house, the girl left on the pretext of getting condoms. When the driver thought about the recent rumored disappearance, his heart went crazy and his sexual desire disappeared instantly, so he went downstairs and tried to leave. At this time, the girl just opened the door and tried to get out. The driver also squeezed out, but the girl stopped him and shouted into the room. Several young men suddenly rushed out from the side, punched and kicked the driver, and one of them tried to strangle him with a rope. The driver was shocked, and relying on his physical strength, he pushed the girl away and fled to his car in the yard. Several young men chased him out and hit the driver on the head with wooden sticks. The driver was hit on the head multiple times and almost passed out. Due to the strong desire to survive, the driver gritted his teeth and drove the vehicle out of the yard. He drove more than 10 kilometers before passing out. Unfortunately, the driver was too frightened and could no longer remember the location of the rental house. He only described the woman's appearance and accent. Strangely, his description was different from the previous two drivers. The latter said the girl had a distinct Jiangxi accent, while the former said she had a Guizhou accent. The police were not confused by these differences and believed that this was a gang crime with multiple girls involved in the crime. Based on the fact that they failed twice in a row but still did the third case, it seems that this group of gangsters may not have much money anymore. In order to survive, gangsters may take risks and commit crimes at all costs. Starting from June 6, 1994, the police focused on tightening control near the airport, preparing to catch these girls who were acting as bait and open a breakthrough. After 20 days, dozens of investigators found no suspicious girl. It seems that this group of people was aware of the danger and did not dare to commit crimes. The police did not lift the alert but stayed on site 24 hours a day. On the 26th, investigator Yu Jinji made a discovery. In front of the terminal, a young girl wearing low-cut, sexy black clothes suddenly appeared and stopped several cars in succession. If trying to take a taxi out of the airport, she should hail a taxi. But the girl stopped all private cars, and all of them were good cars. Yujinji quietly moved closer and found that the girl dressed in a coquettish manner was very similar to the description of the two drivers. Just when Yujinji was making an urgent report, the girl got into a Toyota Camry and left the airport. Oops, she found her prey again. Under the eyes of the police, if this driver is killed, it will be the biggest shame for the Shenzhen police. Captain Li Zheng personally led the team and dispatched several vehicles to pursue them along the airport highway. Interestingly, the driver of the Toyota Camry soon discovered that the police were following him. He mistakenly thought that the police were arresting prostitutes and was so frightened that he drove the car at a speed of 130 kilometers per hour. At that time, the Shenzhen police were short of funds and their vehicles were very shabby. Most of them could only drive 80 kilometers and could not catch up. In the end, it was Captain Li Zheng who drove the Toyota to a stop at a high speed of 140 kilometers in a Duke King car that was specially awarded by his superiors. Out of caution, the police subdued and handcuffed the driver. The driver was frightened to death and kept saying, "I'm not a prostitute, I was kindly giving her a ride." "Oh well, okay, I'm a prostitute. You tell me how much the fine is, I'll pay it. Don't do it. Notify the work unit and my wife." This idiot doesn't even know that he has walked through the door of hell. 1. Follow the clues. After the police caught this sexy girl, they immediately conducted a surprise interrogation overnight. This girl is not old, but she is not an energy-saving lamp either. She denied everything and refused to explain. The interrogation lasted for 8 hours until 5 a.m. the next day, when the girl finally couldn't hold on any longer and softened. The police said, "Think about it for yourself. We didn't arrest so many people in Shenzhen. Why did we arrest you? You are young. Don't destroy yourself for others. Now I give you a chance to say it. If you say it, it will be regarded as meritorious service and you can be lenient. Deal with it. If you don't tell me yet, don't regret it later. Hearing this, the girl couldn't help crying. It's none of my business. I was forced to do it. Let me ask you, I just took the driver back and did nothing else. How many years will I be sentenced? Will he be punished by death? Later, the girl revealed that her real name was Liu Yuxiang, a native of Ningdu County, Jiangxi Province, and she came to work at the speaker factory in Fengshan County, Guangdong Province 6 months ago. 2 months later, she met her generous boyfriend Chiu Dexi and stopped working to live with him. There are 3 couples in total living in a rented house. Her boyfriend Chiu Dexi told her that he and 2 other men were friends, and they were both in the car smuggling business. The one named Zhang Chuqiang is their boss. In addition to the 6 of them, there are 10 friends who also do business together but don't usually live here. Later, her boyfriend Chiu Dexi asked Liu Yuxiang and 2 other girls to dress up sexy and coquettish and go to the airport to trick the driver into renting a house. Liu Yuxiang asked why the driver was tricked. Her boyfriend Chiu Dexi said he was engaging in blackmail, scaring the drivers away and then selling their cars. Liu Yuxiang was dubious about this. They live a luxurious life, eating, drinking, and having fun all day long, spending money like water and having no income. At her boyfriend's request, Liu Yuxiang had no choice but to go to the airport 3 times to trick the driver. However, Liu Yuxiang is timid, and he has not seen much of the world since he came to Shenzhen. She failed 3 times in a row and was caught by the police on the 3rd time. When questioned by the police, Liu Yuxiang finally admitted that they were responsible for the previous murders and carjackings. According to the address of the rental house provided by Liu Yuxiang, the police immediately made an arrest. This group of guys was also very cunning. They discovered that Liu Yuxiang had not returned home all night and knew that something had happened. They split up and escaped in a hurry early the next morning, but the arrest was unsuccessful. Based on Liu Yuxiang's account, the police quickly identified the identities of Zhang Chuqiang, Chiu Dexi, and 2 other women. After an emergency arrest, Zhang Chuqiang was first arrested in his hometown in Fengshan County, and then Chiu Dexi was arrested at his cousin's home in Shahe, Guangzhou. After these people were arrested, they did not resist and quickly told them the whereabouts of their other accomplices. As a result, this criminal gang of up to 16 people surfaced, of which 10 were men and 6 were women. Among the 10 men, 9 were directly involved in the killing, and 1 was responsible for selling the stolen goods and did not directly kill. As for the 6 women, they were all used as bait to lure the driver back for the men to kill. Within 2 months, all 16 criminals were arrested in Guangdong, Jiangxi, Guizhou, and other places. After the arrest of these 16 criminals, they all confessed that the real boss was not Zhang Chuqiang, but the unassuming Zhang Xiaojian from Fengshan, Guangdong. What makes people speechless is that this group of gangsters, including Zhang Xiaojian, are all very young, around 20 years old. Zhang Xiaojian is the oldest, only 26 years old. The 6 witches responsible for seduction are even younger. The eldest, Xi Xiuyun from Heiyuan, Guangdong Province, is only 23 years old, and the youngest Wen Yana from Guiyang, Guizhou Province, is only 19 years old. Zhang Xiaojian explained that they were all workers who went to Shenzhen to work. Such crazy killings and carjackings are just for money. Xi Xiuyun, one of the 6 witches, said very bluntly, "What's the point of being a human being if you don't have money? Just let the driver die. I didn't kill him, so it's none of my business." 5. Young evil. The 16 people are all indolent young people who cannot bear the hardship of going to work. They are all well-to-do, prostitutes and gamblers, and the factory wages are simply not enough. One day in March 1993, Zhang Xiaojian and 3 friends had just come out of a dance hall. They had spent the last bit of their wages and were penniless. And there is still more than half a month until the factory pays wages. How will we live next? The 4 people were wandering on the street, watching the constant flow of traffic. Suddenly, Zhang Xiaojian's younger brother, Zhang Xiaopo, had an idea. Let's just grab a car and sell it in Fengshan County, our hometown. Fengshan is full of smugglers of stolen cars, and a car can easily sell for tens of thousands. Several people hit it off immediately, and a plan to kill and carjack was decided in just a few minutes. Later, they stopped a white Laurel taxi. The car drove to a remote place, and Zhang Xiaojian suddenly took out a dagger and held it against the driver. Then 3 other people tied up the driver's uniform and threw it in the back seat. The four of them were worried about how to deal with this driver. At first, they just wanted to carjack, not kill anyone. But Zhang Xiaojian believed that the driver knew their appearance and could catch them once the police were called. Those who violently robbed a taxi with a knife would have been jailed for at least 10 years. None of these four young men wanted to go to jail. After a brief discussion, the four decided to kill and silence them. After all, it was the first time to kill someone, so the four of them were a little flustered. They first picked up rocks and hit the driver on the head. The driver was hit with blood on his head and passed out. The four people dragged the body out of the car and prepared to dump it. Unexpectedly, while being dragged, the driver suddenly woke up and begged them to leave him a way out. The four people ignored him and hit the driver on the head again, deforming his skull. They then carried the body to a pond under the road and threw it away. Unexpectedly, the tenacious Zhang Xiaojian was shocked and jumped into the pond, stabbing the driver to death with a dagger several times. After the first murder, the four were so nervous that they drove the car back to Fengshun to sell it while trembling. Zhang Xiaojian confessed. At that time, his feet were so soft that he could hardly step on the accelerator. Fengshun is a famous stolen car sales base. The dealer who collected the car clearly saw that there were bloodstains inside the car, but still accepted it. Zhang Xiaojian and the others each received $1,400. In 1993, $1,400 was quite a lot, and the monthly salary of ordinary people was only 100 or 200 yuan. In the hands of Zhang Xiaojian and others, the $1,400 was squandered in just 1 month. When the money runs out, they start committing crimes again. At this time, Zhang Xiaojian didn't have too many worries. He had already killed someone anyway. What's the difference between killing 10 and killing 1? 2 months later, they flagged down a Bluebird taxi and killed the driver. This killing went badly. The driver was wary of the four men hitching a ride and was unwilling to drive the car to a remote place. Zhang Xiaojian tried his best to convince him. After this time, Zhang Xiaojian thought it was not convenient for a man to stop the car, so it was better to let a woman stop the car. Drivers are generally not very wary of women. So on July 5, 1993, Zhang Xiaojian asked his 19-year-old girlfriend Fu Hongcheng to take a taxi. At first, Zhang Xiaojian did not tell Fu Hongcheng about the murder and robbery plan. At the entrance of Dongguan Oriental Hotel, Zhang Xiaojian asked Fu Hongcheng to stop the Crown 130 taxi driven by Zhang. Later, Zhang Xiaojian asked Fu Hongcheng to get off the bus on the pretext of doing business, and let 3 other accomplices get on. Later, Zhang Xiaojian drove the Crown car back, and Fu Hongcheng found that the driver was missing, the case of the 6 witches, the last 4. She suddenly became frightened and asked Zhang Xiaojian where the driver had gone. Zhang Xiaojian told her, "We killed the driver and the car is going to be sold." Fu Hongcheng was so frightened that she trembled all over and said that she quit working and wanted to return to her hometown in Guizhou. Zhang Xiaojian got into a big fight with her, seized all her documents, and said that she also participated in the crime and would also go to jail. Fu Hongcheng said that she had no choice but to stay and work together. This is just her excuse. Can't the ID card be replaced? If you really escape, where can you go in the huge China? Besides, what does it mean that Fu Hongcheng quickly brought her sister Fu Limin into the gang? In fact, Fu Hongcheng was used to living a luxurious life with Zhang Xiaojian, spending 1,000 to 2,000 yuan a day, and it was impossible for her to go back to the factory and earn 100 to 200 yuan a month. After taxi drivers were killed one after another, taxi companies in Shenzhen, Dongguan City became vigilant. Zhang Xiaojian and others thought that it was already difficult to rob taxis, so they turned to private cars. Prostitution is rampant in Shenzhen, and Zhang Xiaojian sees this as an opportunity to lure drivers to rental houses and then kill them to steal their cars. So while Zhang Xiaojian expanded the size of the gang, 7 of them were his relatives, he also asked the women in the gang, basically all the men's girlfriends or wives, to seduce the airport driver. The gang expanded to 16 people, 6 of whom were women, known as the 6 witches. Among the 6 witches, Fu Hongcheng alone participated in 6 crimes, killing 6 people and taking 6 cars. The other 4 women were involved in the murder and car robbery. Only Liu Yuxiang, who joined last, failed 3 times. The principal criminal, Zhang Xiaojian, participated in 11 crimes, killing 10 people, seriously injuring one person, and robbed 11 cars of various types worth $422,000, from which he received $26,500 in stolen money. This 16-member gang committed 21 crimes in 14 months, including 3 attempts, killing 17 people, seriously injuring one person, stealing 18 cars worth more than $884,594, and obtaining more than $140,600 in stolen money. The gang of Zhang Xiaojian and Fu Hongqiang is the most serious murder and carjacking case since the opening of Shenzhen. The victims also include Hong Kong people. The social and international impact is extremely bad, and the government has decided to severely punish him. Of the 15 gangsters directly involved in the killings, 13 were shot. Liu Yuxiang, who had only 3 attempted crimes, was sentenced to 20 years in prison. In addition, Fu Hongqiang's sister Fu Limin was sentenced to suspended death. She only participated in 1 killing and did not know that Zhang Xiaojian wanted to kill the driver, so she was given a lighter sentence. For just 14 months of luxurious life, these young people ruined themselves and others. Thanks for watching this gripping tale of crime and consequence. If you found the story intriguing, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more captivating content. Remember, real-life stories can be stranger than fiction. Stay tuned for more shocking narratives and insightful discussions. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.